we are not just looking at the short term. So we are looking at the long term here in Sutton, and we want to make sure that the homes that we're building now stand the test of time and are built to the highest affordable, sustainable standards possible. And in many of the developments, we are setting that, the highest standard, particularly going for full passive house accreditation. But it's not been easy. It's not been easy getting those schemes approved, not been easy demonstrating that value for money. But when you think of the long-term benefits, not just for the environment, but for the residents that we live in these warmer, more energy efficient homes, we believe that there is that long-term business case that stacks up, and that we think that we can deliver these homes and they will represent good value homes, not just now, but in the future.
Hello, I'm Toby Fox from 1.5 Million New Homes, the local government challenge, sponsored by Redloft and by Lovell. Every month, I'm visiting a different council to find out what works and what needs to change to get more homes built. And this month, I'm in the London Borough of Sutton. And today, I'm with Spencer Palmer, who's the Strategic Director for Housing, Environment and Neighbourhoods, to find out about the council's ambitious housing programme, how it selects the sites to deliver new homes on, and the different models it's using to get those houses built. So Spencer, tell us a bit about the housing programme in Sutton and how you're delivering it.
So we have a really ambitious housing programme in Sutton. In fact, our corporate plan is called Ambitious for Sutton, and we truly are. And we're here today at Beech Tree Place, one of our sites, where we're developing 92 new affordable homes right in the heart of Sutton, right on top of our council civic offices, and right on our doorstep, if you like. And that's part of a really huge programme, actually, of providing and developing and delivering affordable homes in Sutton. We are, over the next 5 years, delivering over 600 new affordable homes, and we're in the process of, on site, we have over 200 on site at the moment. So we really do have an ambitious programme, but it's not enough. We have a major housing crisis. We have more people in temporary accommodation than we've ever had. And we are looking at a pipeline of schemes as well that we can continue to deliver even more homes than we are delivering at the moment.
So I want to ask you about how you go about selecting where you're going to deliver those homes and also the routes to delivery, the different models that you use for delivery. Pick either one of those to start with.
So we're looking at a mixture of approaches, and there isn't a kind of one-size-fits-all solution for this, and we're looking at the most affordable and most appropriate solution for each of the sites. But in terms of sites, of where we're prioritising, we are prioritising in places like Sutton Town Centre, and particularly Sutton Town Centre, because that is our most built-up urban centre. Sutton still has that outer London suburban feel, and much of our other areas and our district centres in Sutton, we're trying to protect that kind of out of London village feel, if you like, by concentrating our development and providing more homes within our busier town centres. There's also reasons for that. Other reasons for that is the fact that we want to make sure these developments are as sustainable as possible, and I'll talk more about the sustainability standards we're building them to in a moment if I can. But in terms of making them sustainable in terms of car dependency as well, we have to build where we've got the best public transport network. And unfortunately, Sutton doesn't enjoy the kind of public transport accessibility that most of inner London and central London enjoys. So we have to intensify our house building in areas where we've got the best public transport links, and that certainly is in Sutton Town Centre.
How does that stack up against the problems that there are at the moment, particularly with the building safety regulator and height? Because presumably the town centre is where you want height, but the difficulty of getting planning through the building safety regulator means that height is difficult to cope with.
No, indeed. And again, height is perhaps more acceptable again in the more built-up areas, and therefore we are able to look at providing taller buildings in certain parts of the town centre where they will have the least impact, if you like, on the surrounding areas and the views that people enjoy in this area. So it's about striking that balance, as with all things in the public sector, and it's about making sure that we you can't please all the people all of the time, but of course we need to do what's right for the people of Sutton and for the future of Sutton in terms of its economy, environment, and also for the residents that live here.
And are you having trouble with it? Has the building safety regulator held up the programme that you mentioned?
Mainly in terms of cost, and in fact there's been lots of discussion around this in the news recently about the rising cost of delivery. But obviously the additional requirements, particularly in terms of two-stair course, for example, has implications both in terms of the planning process. Some schemes have had to go back through that process, but also in terms of cost as well, which has been an issue. And we need to make sure that we're delivering schemes for value for money. And that actually brings me to the different delivery models, because some of them, like this scheme, we're actually commissioning contractors to develop the scheme ourselves. But in others, we've gone for more of a partnership approach and model to get the best value for money for Sutton as possible.
And you talked about sustainability earlier. So Sutton as a council is investing quite a lot in the design of sustainable homes, with one eye to the future, even to passive house standards. So how are you justifying that in terms of the difficulty it is making schemes viable nowadays?
So again, it is tricky, particularly when money is tight, as it is at the moment. And as I said before, we need to make sure that we're delivering value for money. However, we are not just looking at the short term. So we are looking at the long term here in Sutton, and we want to make sure that the homes that we're building now stand the test of time and are built to the highest affordable, sustainable standards possible. And in many of the developments, we are setting that, the highest standard, particularly going for full passive house accreditation. But it's not been easy. It's not been easy getting those schemes approved, not been easy demonstrating that value for money. But when you think of the long-term benefits, not just for the environment, but for the residents that we living in these warmer, more energy efficient homes, we believe that there is that long-term business case that stacks up, and that we think that we can deliver these homes and they will represent good value homes, not just now, but in the future.
And where is that additional investment coming from? Is that the council investing more in the homes it's delivering in order to get them to that standard, or is it grant funding or some other?
So it's largely council funding, and in fact the additional cost that we need to consider for the premium that we're paying for that higher standard. And Sutton's always prided itself on being a greener borough, and we've set the bar for many years actually in Sutton in terms of our sort of development and initiatives that we have implemented around the environment. But we're also getting support from grant funding. So we are, this scheme and other schemes in London are supported by GLA grant as well. But we have to, do what we can to get as much grant as possible. But in the end, it's the council picking up the lion's share of the cost of these developments.
And we talked a bit about infrastructure. How have you gone about making sure that the infrastructure delivery is phased in a way that local communities around developments aren't finding that facilities are overrun by new residents coming in, that congestion builds up on the roads and so on and so forth? How have you managed to kind of phase the delivery of that infrastructure to support development?
Through careful planning, of course, looking at the sites that we want to bring forward first and making sure that we aren't we're doing as much as we can as quickly as we can, but as you say, without having too much major disruption. But we're looking at it. It's all part of the planning stage, and looking at the impact it will have on the local community, looking at a phased approach to certain developments to make sure that we can rehouse residents that want to come back to the development, where it is a regeneration and redevelopment scheme like this one. And Elm Grove as well, another major project that we've just started on site on. Again, that is somewhere where we're having to move people off of the estate to make them start on the project, but we're making sure that there is a sensible phased approach to that. And in terms of the impact on wider infrastructure, of course, as part of the planning process, we're making sure that there is all of these considerations are thought of through the planning process to make sure that we have the infrastructure, we have the public facilities, whether it be around utilities or whether it be about sort of healthcare and education, but all of those considerations are taken into account through the planning process, and we make sure that we secure the funding and investment we need for that, and work with our wider partners to ensure that infrastructure is in place as the developments come online.
So you've told us a great story. You've got loads of houses being built in Sutton. What needs to change to enable you to build even more?
Well, in terms of change, one of the struggles is available sites. There's only so much space within the borough, and certainly in areas where we would see this scale of development. And so there is something around that. It's about, we are restricted by the amount of space and the sites that we have available. But that's why, and again, coming back to the other options we're looking at, as well as looking at developing our own sites that we own and our council estates that we are regenerating, we are also looking at acquisitions as well. So we are looking at investing in private developments where we are perhaps buying a block or two in that development.
So
for
Chalk
social
Gardens,
housing,
for example,
is an example of that.
Berkeley Homes,
So the Berkeley St George development just up the road from here is exactly what we've done there. And so we're looking at those options, but also other acquisitions as well from smaller developments where they become available, where they seem affordable, and we're looking at those options as well. So it is, as I say, it's a mixture of acquisitions and development of our own, and also those sort of partnership deals that we are doing to make sure that we get as much affordable housing as we can in Sutton.
But outsider's view, we hear constantly that councils are short of money, that the money's running out, the grant funding's being cut and everything's more expensive and social services is so expensive now and there's so much demand. Where are you finding the money as a council to invest in more property?
Essentially, we are funding our development through borrowing and borrowing through our HRA, our Housing Revenue Account, which is a ring-fenced account for our social housing stock. It's a fine balancing act as well, because that account, we look at a 30-year sort of horizon for our business plan. For
30 year.
Yeah, 30 year. And even with that, there is a considerable deficit, mainly as well as needing to invest in our existing stock and maintain it, but also have sufficient funding as well to develop new schemes like this one. We're also having to meet energy efficiency standards as well, and those challenges are needing significant investment as well. So because of that, it is a struggle, and one of the problems we're having is making sure that the funding that's available is there to match our ambition and to build. Yeah.
Spencer, thank you very much for your part in getting 1.5 million new homes built.
Thank you.
So that's the end of another episode of 1.5 Million New Homes, the Local Government Challenge, sponsored by Redloft and by Lovell. We're going to be back in a few days with more from the London Borough of Sutton. But until then, hopefully you like what you've seen. And if you do, please click like and subscribe. It's really helpful for us. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.